Good evening, everyone. It's 5:35 on Thursday, April 10th. And welcome to the April meeting of the Mount Vernon School Board. We start tonight with a public hearing. In quick summary, the content of our public hearing tonight is per RSA 198:20-B and also RSA 198:20-C. A public hearing is being held to discuss the two following elements. And I'll let our experts address both of them. But the first one is the acceptance and expenditure of unanticipated federal and food service grant revenue. And for details on that, I'll just pass it over to Ms. Facey.
Sure, yeah, so you have in Assembly a memo just describing why we're having the public hearing. So basically the budget is approved on a gross basis. So in order to expend any additional funds that come in from unanticipated revenue, we need to accept those funds in order to spend them. So you'll see in your packet a listing of all of the different grants with the amounts that were approved in the budget. And then the actual amount that we've received. So what we're asking tonight is the board to approve the additional amount over what was budgeted.
You want to do these
You can just do them all.
together?
Yeah, you don't have to go through them one by one. So this is to request to spend up to $198,576 over the previously approved budget. Of these grants of $96,616.
Okay.
So that's really it. I'll take any questions, but there are a variety of grants. What happens is sometimes we just receive unanticipated revenue, other times for the typical IDA and title grants, we may not expend those fully in a particular year. So that's why you see several listed. There might be a small amount that's left over that would roll to the next year. So we would need to reapprove those for that fiscal year.
So where does this money go? This 198 to the line items that are listed?
Yes, so like the IDEA grant, that's for special education, preschool. So they're for specific purposes as outlined in the particular grant. So it doesn't affect fund balance or anything. It's just money that comes in as revenue and then it gets expensed. But if we don't accept these funds, then you can't increase your budget by that amount. And therefore you would have to use budgeted funds to be able to pay off the expenses that are associated. So it's important to accept the revenue so that you have the revenue to offset the expense.
Okay.
Oh, so we're just saying, yes, we will take your money tonight.
Correct, that's it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Good
So we
summation.
started this practice, I think when I became BA, we do this every year so that we're able to take advantage of these funds and not have to find funding in budget that we don't have.
That's a big number.
Yep.
I don't know what it was.
Kind
last
of
year.
nice that we got all.
That's it.
Yeah, so a big chunk of it is that SAFE grant, so that was, unbudgeted. That's a large portion of it. And the other is the IDEA that we received more funding than anticipated. So
It can be a number of years. If we don't spend it, this catches it up and rolls it into the appropriate fiscal.
Okay, great.
That's why it's significant.
Any other questions on this, the first element?
I'm good on the first element.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
The second one is the expenditure of funds from the Mount Vernon School District School Property Maintenance and Expendable Trust Fund for tree removal. And this is something that we've had on our project docket, our budgeting document for year-over-year improvement. I would refer to Mr. Preston, if you have an update on any details of the tree removal. that
I
we should know
do.
about.
If Steve could just click on, I created a form here that I've sent out to 8 different vendors. Identified our trees on the property. Area one is obviously the trees that are on our playground here. You can see that those trees are leaning towards the parking lot and the roadway. So I'm looking for the arborist to tell us for any hazardous trees that are in those areas. And to remove any dangerous branches, that are on the trees that stay to that, on any trees that stay there. Area two, calls out trees that are, we have a couple of trees in that area actually leaning towards the building. And looking at, removing those trees as, taking that hazard away from the building. So as far as tree removal, it's area 1 and 2, but because we have other trees on the property, areas 3, 4, 5, and 6 are just pruning, around the property and taking care of our ornamental trees that we have there. The pictures are just current as we are on the current state here. Obviously, the map is our Google Earth that I think the last update is 2019 or newer, so pictures are actually how they are right now if we went outside. Each little picture and area just requests what we're looking for there. This tree, for instance, area 5, you can see from the picture, it encroaches over the building, which allows animal access there. So we're just trying to cut back that tree on that side to remove access. And then area 6, that's our bird garden we have there, a lot of ornamentals in there. We're just really looking to prune those trees and clean up that area.
I want to make sure I share the screen and have our visitors.
Did you see quotes from local arborists?
All of the vendors that I sent it out to are all local within the area to Mount Vernon and Amherst. I think some of them go as far as national.
I just know we have a couple that live in town, so I want to make sure they have a shot.
Yeah.
And the amount is up to 10,000 as
It's-
needed.
It is up to 10,000. Tree work can be very, very expensive. If you've ever done tree work at your home or for a business. So we do have 2 phases of this. We call out this spring, summer for phase 1, and then I think the plan calls out FY. We skip 1 year and then we go into the 3rd year, I believe, for FY 28. So FY 27 calls out door replacement, and then FY 28, we look at boilers and some more tree work if needed at the time.
Thank you.
The question basically is, it's up to 10K, so you could get a quote and it's only 6 or 7, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and the way that I broke it down is each area is a cost, so if we need to be selective, we are able to just select each area.
Okay.
And this goes into just the CNA document that we created. This is a monster document for all districts because I'm SAU, but here we can see FY 26, we have tree removal for 10,000, door replacement for the following year. Then we look at our boilers, and then the last phase of tree removal is FY 28 close.
Well, got it. Leaf, you got me?
No,
You good? Yep. See a half a hand.
I just want to know if stump removal is included in your request.
If we remove the trees, absolutely stump removal will be included.
So is it already gone out to the 6 firms
It just went out yesterday to 8.
with that stumping requirement?
We will include the stumping requirement. I've already had people that came back to me that asked for site visits. I'm going to be doing individual visits with them as well. So if any questions that come up or anything that needs to be clarified, I'll make sure that that gets to them as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
So just a reminder on the process, so the board is the agent to expend the funds. And then once this work is done, then we send a packet over to the trustees of the trust fund. Who hold the funds in custody. And so we would have access to those funds to be able to pay, to reimburse the district.
So entertain a motion to accept both items. Number 1, the acceptance and the expenditure of unanticipated federal and food service grant revenue. And number 2, the expenditure of funds for the Mount Vernon School District property.
I appreciate your enthusiasm and vigor.
Yeah,
Typically, if you want to do public comment for anybody who's online, anybody who's here,
okay,
close the public hearing
got it,
and then open up the board meeting
got it,
and make the vote during the board meeting would be wonderful.
perfect, yeah. Do we have anybody online, Mr. Chairman?
We do. Let's see if they want to. Stop that. We have 2 attendees. Colin is, if that's a board member, I can bump them up.
Panelists, yeah.
Panelists, I will bump them up. And then, we have one. It's not
You
called,
only have to do that whole year alone and stuff thing.
yeah, and then
For
you
the
gotta
meeting
do,
itself, right?
yeah, then you do roll call votes.
Okay.
Okay.
So you wanna check in with Colin, that'd be great.
Hey, Colin, wanna unmute yourself and say hi?
Good evening, everyone. Apologies, I'll be there shortly.
Okay.
No problem.
Can you hear me okay?
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
great.
Okay, perfect. I should be there about 15 minutes.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Good thing. Okay, so exit, motion to exit public.
Yeah, there's no one online, and I think we've exhausted all public comment in the room. No one online who was indicated to make a comment, I should say. I apologize for not finishing that statement.
So we'll take a motion to exit our public hearing.
Sure, I'll make that motion.
All those in favor, Colin, we gotta do a roll call because Colin's remote, so.
Stokinger, yes?
Amber, yes.
Eckhoff, yes. Colin?
Yes,
Those two elements pass 4-0.
You know, we gotta move to, that was the end of the
And
public hearing.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to open up the board meeting.
I'm gonna open the meeting now. So I will call to order the school board meeting. I gotta squint to see my clock at 5:46. And at this point, I will take a motion to accept the federal funds, spend the money to cut trees and limbs and perfect. What we just talked about in public.
Is that the consent agenda or is it in addition?
No, we still,
Separate?
we're in the meeting, so now we have to vote in public,
Got it.
so we have to.
I will make a motion to accept and spend the unanticipated federal and food service grant revenue and to expend funds from the Mont Vernon School District Property Maintenance Expendable Trust Fund for tree removal.
I will second that.
And all those in favor, again, roll call vote. This time we'll start with Colin.
yes,
Yes. And Eckhoff, yes. So those two are approved by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You're welcome. So next up is our public input. This is one of two. And Mr. Chamberlain, do you have the guidelines in front of you?
Yes, I put them in the chat. Already, so they are there. You can see them right there in blue.
Yep.
So, the people online have been informed of our protocol.
We have any input from our in-person audience at all? Seeing none, do we have any hands remote, Mr. Chamberlain?
No, sir.
Thank you. Next up on our agenda is the consent agenda. And the draft minutes from our March 25th board meeting. We have we need to remove.
So what we'd like to do is table them for this evening, and we will bring them to the agenda to approve them at the next board meeting.
Do we need to vote on that or just?
I appreciate motion to table the.
Yeah, so I'll entertain a motion. We're gonna table the draft minutes from our last meeting on the 25th and bring them up at our next meeting.
I'll move to table draft minutes until the next meeting.
Second, please.
Is second.
All those in favor, again, we'll start with you, Colin.
in favor, yes.
And Eckhoff, yes. So reports, our next agenda item, item 5. And he's already spoken tonight, but we're very pleased to have Roger Preston, our Director of Facilities for the SAU here tonight live. And to give us an update on our building and how we're doing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Each month, we share a facilities report that happened in the month prior. That last one was our March report. And in each report, I try to make them the same throughout all districts. We include just any vendor maintenance that we had come in here. So last month, you can see that we did air quality testing. We are using temporary facility services right now, just to help that coverage during the day. Obviously, we have waste management services that happen weekly, and we also have a pest monitoring program that we run each month as well. Going into the next section, this is work that our facility staff at the building and our HVAC technician and electrician may have completed as well. So we've done an emergency light inspection with our electrician here. We replaced the back door exterior light with our electrician as well. Our HVAC tech has replaced the heating valve in room E1. And then we also had multiple setup and breakdowns of school and town events in March as well. We installed a new push button and chime box for the kitchen. That's just for delivery access. We have a unique situation up here, similar to Clark School as well, as we're responsible for maintaining the grounds. I do help support that with spring and fall cleanup of outsourcing vendors, because that can be a little tasking on one individual for the size of property that we have here. So care and upkeep of grounds is also our responsibility. I like to collect data, if you know me at all, so we take daily water meter readings here. We do that at all buildings. That tells us our water consumption, our average water usage, and we can actually break that down for the number of occupants that we have in the building. Daily cleaning and disinfecting, anything that's underlined is actually a PDF link that goes into an enormous amount of information that we won't go into here. But daily cleaning and disinfecting, these are our procedures on how we actually go through the building and clean each section of the building here. We have a generator that's in the back house out back. We do have to start that up every week. We check our fuel readings. We're making sure that that generator is actually ready to operate as needed. Again, that's another collaborative effort with our outsourcing vendor, just generator company coming in twice a year, doing a minor oil change, major oil change and a minor, and then also running that transfer test just to make sure that our building is transferring as needed and that generator is actually working as needed as well. We take fuel readings every week. This is very important to me. I need to know the amount of consumption that we have in our fuel source. We're number 2 fuel oil here. Our oil tank is actually in the parking lot out front that feeds 2 boilers in our boiler rooms off the side of the MPR. We also have eye wash stations here. We check those weekly, just making sure and running them and testing them. So if we ever do need them, that those eye wash stations are ready to use and not actually bringing more contaminants in your eyes when you're actually trying to flush contaminants out of your eyes. We also check the fire extinguishers monthly as well. Again, collaborative effort with an outsourced vendor. Every July, I have an outsourced vendor come in here. They re-tag every fire extinguisher, replace any fire extinguisher that needs to be replaced because of dates, and check all the pins and just making sure that that fire extinguisher is charged. Although that's done in July, these extinguishers sit all year long, so we make sure monthly that there's pins there, that the fire extinguisher is still where it needs to be, that it's charged and it's actually ready to be used if in the case we ever do need it. Underground storage tank inspection, another collaborative effort. We have DES guys that are certified through the DES. It's an underground storage tank certification because we have a storage tank here on site. We do that because we need to be versed on how do we respond to spills, how do we deal with our feeder route, which is the actual monitoring system for the underground storage tank. We do that monthly just to make sure that we have no leaks within the ground. We're also on a well here, so we want to make sure that we're not contaminating any groundwater whatsoever, because everybody in Mount Vernon is on a well up here. I like to just highlight what we have upcoming in the following month. In April, we're looking at spring cleanup. I usually do that during school break. That is where we use an outsourced vendor to help just clean up the entire property, and we kind of take it from that point to the next cleanup that we have. Informational leaks, again, a lot of information in there. We go into our 5-year budgets that you can take a look ahead for Mount Vernon, but not only is it our village school, it's all the schools that we're responsible for. We also highlight our long-term planning in the CNA CIP. FY25 SAU 39, that next sheet there, that's kind of a play-by-play tracking. That's how I hold myself accountable. That's actually what feeds a lot of our operating budget and actually feeds the day-to-day. If you could go back up, there we go, thank you.
Sorry.
Monthly facilities updates, that is actually an entire document from when I started here.
That's the tracking.
That's just tracking, yeah.
Yeah, that's,
I just wanted him to show.
yeah, so
So impressive.
So I try to structure all of my forms off of how we budget. It's repairs, it's preventative maintenance, we go into utilities, we go into training. You click here. So these repairs, when we start this year off in July, as you scroll down, that repairs thing is actually empty. So as we scroll up, all those repairs are, I'm sorry, scroll down back to the top. All of these repairs have been since July 1 of this year. Like I said, July 1 of 2025, this will be a new sheet. These repair sheet will actually start out empty. This is everything that I've tracked. I've created more forms so that I know that I've paid vendors from this point, and it actually helps with our accounts payable to make sure everything is closed out. If we keep going down, we can actually see this is the preventative maintenance. You know me, if you've been in that budget presentation, this is what actually drives all of our buildings. This is everything that's annual, repetitive, that actually just needs to be completed, and it's a repetitive action happening every year. We break it down into grounds as well. This is what's happening on the property or grounds. I include ice mode in there because that is going on to the property, so that is grounds items to me. Then we go into just what software are we actually using. Our online maintenance program is actually School Do Brightly. Brightly is just purchased by Siemens, believe it or not. It's our work order system that allows anybody within the district, if they see something, it enters a work order, it comes to me, I assign it to the proper technician, or we reach out for assistance with an outsourced vendor, just for whatever that work order may be. And then utilities are just tracked down there. We have generator fuel, building fuel, and then we go into building electric. So that again is structured off of that 5-year plan. And then if we go back to just the monthly sheet, if you could, for me.
Yeah, I don't know where it went.
I know you're so many tabs.
Not bad. Not bad. A lot open.
Boom. Boom. Maybe just go back to the assembly and click on the form again.
Got it.
There you go.
Boom.
So
Sorry.
then going into there, this bottom one, all I was getting at is the monthly updates. There, every year I break it down. There's 5 years worth of monthly updates, not only for village school, but all of our districts. And you can just look at the past projects that we've done and we've completed together. Here information, we do have asbestos in our Amherst schools, and we do have a couple of rooms here with floor tile as well. This is just our monitoring information. If you went into that, it is an enormous binder of everything that we've gathered throughout the time, throughout the history of our buildings. And it's also our monitoring plans that we continue. I believe our walkthroughs are set up for July and December. And then we also work with third-party DES because they require a 3-year inspection that the DES comes in and monitors that everything we're doing, we have all of the paperwork, and that monitoring is actually happening while they're not here at the building. Joint loss committee, I've been chair for the joint loss committee for I'm on my 3rd term here, going in my 5th year. This is just safety information that it's a enormous team throughout all of our schools of teachers, administration, myself. I even invite our Timex insurance company there that attends. Good relationship with Monica. I've known her for the last 13 years. She likes attending the meetings. We are really a lot of the leaders when it comes to the joint loss as far as our safety programs. Amina Fazlik, our HR director, and our teachers feedback as well. Administration has done an enormous work on just our safety program and making sure that our protocols and teachers and staff are just safe here. And then air quality, I know it came up at other meetings, is sometimes when we do air quality, sometimes when I do the air quality results, the testing the month prior, I actually don't always have those results by the meeting. So what I've done here is I've just added a section there that's based off our website. It's all of the air quality results that we've seen and received that are posted on our website. Last thing is, like I try to just bring people within our buildings that aren't here for just the highlights. We check our eye wash stations. This is the light that was replaced. An example of a fire extinguisher we're checking. And what you can't see right there is just another emergency light that we had our electrician go through. So very, very detailed. I try to keep them same structure throughout all of our schools, so that everybody is seeing the same. A lot of work that goes into this building. I just really thank the team. Not only the team here that we have, but just our Amherst and Souhegan staff that do come up here and they do cover for times that we need them, so.
Thank you. I had one quick question. Is how old is the generator? And or how many hours are on it?
Generator, I believe if I. Can't hold me to it, but I believe the generator is 1970s, if I'm correct. It was an old army generator that the town purchased through a grant at the time that I believe Stephen O'Keefe may have helped with or not, but he has definitely shared grant information for us. I believe it's in the 70s, to be honest with you, but I'd have to get back to you for the exact.
And you're still confident with the way it's operated?
I have to actually look at the plan, because again, I also do these plans so that I'm not storing everything up in the file cabinets that I have in my head, so. Calling out the plans
Not
here,
to
I
put you on
think,
the spot, Roger.
no, it's fine, I do have the generator on the plan, I haven't called it out as far as a timeline yet. It's still being based off of, me learning more about that generator, where does it fall in the plan, and it's also, I built the plan also knowing that we're working with Harriman and Architects right now. We don't know what's really going on with the building, so I have chosen the priorities that I know that replacement of the boilers is a priority regardless of a renovation project or not. We know we need boilers. Tree work we're starting with, we know we're removing those hazards from the site. So it's just, bigger picture helps define that as well. So I think it's just more time, and again, 5-year plan isn't anything set in stone. It's actually a working document, I like to call it, because things change by the day, priorities change by the day. So still work in progress, but definitely can get back to you for the exact age and hours of the generator.
Yeah, it probably still won't be for years till we touch it, right? So.
It's still years down the road, but that's why it's important that we're running that, weekly ourselves, giving it that generator runtime as well, and that we're having a company coming here twice a year to actually check that generator itself too. Yeah.
Cross our fingers, in 5 years, we can get a battery instead.
Yeah, is it,
So hopefully
it's a diesel generator, right?
It is a diesel generator. Like I said, it's an old army generator. Armies, I mean, speaking to the army, they're taking that. When that was living with the army, they were taking that apart and they were rebuilding it because they had that time to do that. And that generator, when we received it, was in good operating shape. Still is in good shape. It has its own enclosure, which is great as well. Believe it or not, the generator itself does have an enclosure, but a decision was made at the time for that shed to be built around the generator. Big picture items that we need to look at. Our generator right now is manual start generator. We have an automatic Fuller transfer switch, but when we do lose power up here, we still need someone to physically come and start that generator itself. Refeeds the whole entire building on its own, great. Future generator will actually start itself on its own, will run exercise on its own. Exercise just meaning once a week, generators usually start up, they run themselves for 20 minutes, they put themselves to sleep. That's ensuring that, that's again, what we're doing manually is just ensuring when you need that generator is gonna start and run when you need it.
Correct, when they test it or when you exercise it, are you loading it?
We are loading it just because fuel deposits will build up in there, and if you're just exercising that generator without a load, you're not burning those fuel deposits off.
Yeah.
You can actually do that without load. You can hook up just heating elements to them that really just takes that load into it, and that burns those deposits off.
Thank you. That was excellent. Any other questions for Mr. Preston while we have him? I'm good. Thank you, sir. Building looks great. Thank you for everything.
Appreciate it. Team works hard. Appreciate it.
Next up is item 2 under our reports tonight. And this is our insights report for fall 2023 to fall 2024. And I will defer to Mr. Barry.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So in January, we got a right to know request in SCA 39, requesting the SCA 39 insights report. It was delayed a great deal by NEWA and it was not released until March to us. And then I released fulfilled the right to know request. However, I did want the board to have the insights report as it is out there to community members. However, as in past practice, we like to look at data as a all encompassing and at their July retreats where we use multiple points. So there's a memo kind of explaining, how we want to continue to move forward and then really not dive into the NEWA at this time and delay our conversation around data, from local assessments to SAS to NEWA, for the summertime. You guys know we like to look at data to improve educational achievement, to understand effectiveness of programs, curriculum instruction assessment, and for us, multiple data points when discussing data is really important. We like to do that at the retreat, but I want you guys to have that and to kind of understand where we're at with it. So, hope you guys can understand where we are.
Thank you. Obviously, you folks.
You'll get more.
And you'll get more into it. I just didn't want it to be out there without you knowing.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks.
that is it on that one, my friend.
All right. Next up,
Well, it's,
Could you please tell me what that acronym means?
Northwest.
Education assessment.
I had it. I was letting
Oh,
it
I'm sorry. I apologize.
And just start directing your questions.
Positive.
Education assessment.
Buffering.
Northwest Education Assessment.
Or is that information available to the public?
I believe it is online. So I will take a look.
It should be on the meeting.
It's on the agenda too.
On the
So you can
agenda.
click on it and
It's right
get
here.
to there.
It's right here on the agenda.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's actually Northwest Evaluation Association. That's what NEWA.
We're close.
Yeah, in the ballpark.
We going to that?
I'm everyone's boss here. You know that.
Bad day. Thank you, Tom.
Welcome.
thank you to who?
So, all right, so next we had board correspondence, and that's a sitting agenda item in case we get Mount Vernon school board directed themes and emails. And we have not done any, but if there was any emails directed to the whole board, we would, put them there. Or if there was written public comment in the future, we would put them in there and house them there. We don't have any at this point, so it's just a placeholder.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Next up, item number 7 for tonight is Amherst Middle School Assistant Principal Mike Kadir, with an update on transition.
Yeah, so we're excited, today to bring Mr. Kadir up here. He's the upper school assistant principal in his first year at Mount Vernon. So each year we talk a little bit about transition, and what we noticed is, the transition events are pretty similar, and you have a memo kind of like outlining that, and if you have any questions on the events, Mr. Kadir is here to kind of introduce himself to the board, because he's heavily involved in 7th and 8th grade, and talk a little bit about the themes of what in the goals of our transition from MB to AMS. And so, Mr. Kadir, will turn it over to you and go from there.
All right, well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I've met some of you guys already, so I'm looking forward to talking more, just building that relationship even more. So before I came here, just a little background, I was an English teacher in middle school in Londonderry, and I've always been middle school minded, so I love middle school, I love the age, I love the challenges and the rewards that come along with that. So I'm really happy to be here. Part of the reason I came into administration is I feel like there's a lot of people that they talk about what could be different or what could be changed, and I could either talk about it or I could try to be one of those people that try to help change things for the better. And coming to AMS and coming to SE 39, I just knew it was the right place for me. It has a great reputation coming into it, but then after meeting Krista Gauthier, the principal at Amherst Middle School, and understanding what her goals for everything are, meeting the other leadership, meeting Mike and Steve, just really showed that it was the right place to be. It's a community that's very supportive. There's a strong growth mindset here, community of learning. a lot of professionalism, and people genuinely care about the kids and what's best for the kids. So all those things make it spoke to me to come and be a part of this. Being at AMS, I really loved working with our team there. So Kristen and Matt, so Kristen's the principal there, obviously. Matt Lane is another first year assistant principal, so he works with the lower school, the 5th and 6th graders. And the dynamic that I think we have all together, I think it's felt in the school. I know I feel it as a professional, I feel it working there, and I think that it's felt in the building. Just genuinely enjoy working with each other, doing what's best for kids. I've loved working with our teachers and our building staff. And another piece of it is I think that our SEL team, so we call it our Eagle team, which is the admin team and the SEL team, the counselors. I think we're really firing on all cylinders and really talking about what is best for the kids and how we can best support them. And that leads me to talking about Mont Vernon and helping those kids transition in there. So I made kind of a list of some key themes and goals as opposed to going through specifically all the activities. So if you have specific questions about any of the activities, definitely feel free to ask. I can dig more into them. But as far as key themes and goals, I mean, the main objective is that we're ensuring a smooth transition for the Mont Vernon students to come to Amherst Middle School, focusing on academic, social, and emotional integration, making sure they're helping with all those pieces. So one step is the positive transition experience. So the goal being to make the transition to AMS welcoming and as easy as possible. And we've noticed that students from Mont Vernon, they've adapted well. I know obviously there's some initial nerves coming in there. It's different, you know, school size, building layout, making friends. But we've noticed that most students felt settled within the first few weeks. And we have a system in place to make sure that they're being checked in with and making sure that we're getting feedback about how they're doing and reaching out to the parents also. Another piece of this is ongoing support and activities. So the goal of that being to create opportunities for students to connect with Amherst Middle School before the official start. So we have multiple activities, both academic and socially themed. And these are designed to ensure that students feel comfortable and ready as they make that transition to AMS. Another piece is really strengthening that school integration. So fostering integration through shared experiences and familiarization with AMS staff and peers. So we have a lot of events designed to help the students feel like they're more a part of the AMS community. That includes getting to know the students, shadowing students, getting to know the teachers, getting to know the counselors, and really building that bridge to make sure that they feel like they're welcome and ready to come when they join us. And then another piece of this is looking at the long-term success. So the goal is to set students up for success academically and socially, not just in that initial transition, but also making sure that they're ready to transition onward. So into 7th grade with us, then also onward to 8th grade and to high school, and making sure that we're planning for the long-term success too, as we're building on the short term. So those are kind of things that I just wanted to make sure they touched on. And like I said, if you guys have specific questions about any of the events that we're doing or any of the pieces to this, I'm happy to answer them. And again, I'm just excited to be here and be working with everyone.
Any changes from the transition from last year?
So in terms of activities or?
Yeah.
So one thing that we're looking at is combining the way that we did the step up day and the connection day last year. So we're looking at revamping that to make it more effective. One of the pieces of feedback that we got from the students is they thought it'd be really valuable to actually shadow students that day. So we're looking to revamp that piece a little bit, taking the feedback from the students, talking to the counselors and also talking to the parents and trying to make it the most valuable use of time we can. So we're looking at revamping that, actually pairing them up with Mont Vernon students that we have there currently in 7th grade. So instead of going to 6th grade and seeing a 6th grade day, they'll actually be shadowing 7th graders and seeing what a 7th grade day looks like, seeing those teachers, seeing the 7th grade teachers. We're also trying to figure out and build in more opportunities for the teachers to interact with the kids so that the teams, multiple teams can actually interact with the kids a little bit, get to know them and get that FaceTime in there while not losing any of the things that the kids are really excited for, like seeing specials, seeing the cafeteria. The novelty of the cafeteria is important. They have to see that. They want to see the lunchroom. But it's really about building that and trying to make it so that the time we do have with them is as effective as it can be.
So 7th grade instead of 6th, but still the same number of trips down the hill.
So we're looking to revamp that. So it may be because we're going to be combining essentially two things, two different experiences. If we can figure a way to combine that into just that one day, we may be doing that. So that's what we're looking at to make it so it's most effective to them. But we also added time where students came and visited here. So that was something new that they were looking at adding this year, is having the counselor come and visit the school and bringing some Mont Vernon kids over to talk about middle school experiences. So We added that piece to it, and that way they had a chance to talk, and there was another thing that came from the feedback, was they wanted to have that chance to ask those questions before going into the bigger school, before having that big experience, so we added that to it, so Mr. D, the counselor, came over, he brought his therapy dog Moose over, it was interacting with the kids and able to answer questions, and hearing from students that are actually living it, was really good.
Can I just say something quick? Just a fun little thing. Today, you may know about this, but today we combined efforts, the librarians and the SAU, combined efforts. Brought a renowned, young adult adolescent author in, down at Souhegan High School. We gathered in the auditorium, grades 4, 5, and 6, for us across the SAU. And listen to this author present. It was a really cool vibe in there. Seeing our kids walk in, see kids they knew, you know, just highs, maybe not even remembering that they were gonna see these kids there. Everybody in one room in the auditorium. Focused on literacy, presenter was amazing. It was a good day, it was a good day. It was a good day for our kids to be down there, it was a good vibe in there, very positive, and I think little things like that along the way. Go a long way for our kids, just getting into the doors of the schools.
And one, I just wanted kind of along the lines of trying to help bridge that connection, just being involved. One of the things that I'm also doing this year is when the Mont Vernon kids are visiting ecology school. I know Tom's gonna be there for part of it too, but I'm gonna be visiting there also. So we're gonna have our school counselor speak. He's gonna be there to interact with the kids to help build connections. I'm gonna be there too to make another familiar face, so that we're trying to make sure that they see us and they know us and are comfortable with us before they ever step into the school officially. So they have those connections already.
And a quick question, I'm sorry. The sports participation, is that pretty consistent of what we're seeing year over year? I guess that's a question for you and maybe Tom.
Yeah, I can say just over the years I've been here, it's increased. I've definitely seen more students involved in the sports down the hill. I don't have the stats in front of me,
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
this year you can see it's about 15, 16.
Yeah.
Each season. But I think there's been more promotion, and just across the board, more involvement, you know, cross-country track, softball. This spring we have kids in, I think almost every sport.
I was gonna say, yeah, I know the numbers are in the report that we have in there, the document in there, so I don't know the historical data from it, but I know that, you know, we see a lot of kids coming in, and I know we're excited when they come to the building, and they're very welcome, you know, they come in and we're welcome them soon.
Is it, how does that work? The parents are responsible for transport, something like that?
We shuttle them down every afternoon, so the buses, because they are already going to AMS.
Well, that's what I'm asking, is it the kids?
Yeah,
Yeah, for the 7th and 8th grade,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
just go there and the parents pick them up after.
yeah, okay. Cool. Any other questions? And, yeah,
I was writing as fast as I could. When you were talking about goals for smooth transitions, you said there were plans for academic, social, and the third thing I didn't get written down.
Emotional.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
you all set in, anything else? Anything else? Michael, thank you for coming up. Make yourself welcome anytime. I'm opening Tom's door, but
he's always, oh, fun fact. by the way.
coffee with the principal.
I wanted to lead with this. Mike and I both, so I started, I don't know if you know this. I started my career in Londonderry at the middle school where Mike was. Not only did I start there, I taught 8th grade English. Not only that, but we both taught the same classroom, okay? We have a problem though, because my students back then, this is the dark ages, back in the 90s, made a big mural of all the characters that we read, you know, it was a big big celebration of literacy, Mike painted over the mural. So we got a problem, but it was a fun conversation, and kind of fun that we both started in the same classroom.
Yeah, as well.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys? You're all set? Again, Michael, thank you. Good, good to have you up here. You all set?
Yeah.
Yeah. Next up on our agenda tonight is personnel. And I will defer to Mr. Bear.
Yes, so we have two parts to personnel this evening. We have some teachers we want to nominate and get approved, and then I want to talk a little bit about the hiring season memo that you have in your agenda. But we're very excited. We're very excited to bring two teachers here to this evening. We have two names. We have Sherry Grattan, a special education teacher who's going to become the coordinator up at MV. And then we have a special education case manager, Dakota Homily. We are bringing these candidates for you. Tom's very excited about both these candidates. Went through the interview process and vetted, and Tom and his team are excited to have them here. And if you look in there, there's a nomination form, so you can get some of the details about, you know, their step, their salary, and where they're at and who they're replacing. Sherry's gonna be replacing Carol Austin, you know, Springer, and I can't remember.
Ostenberger.
And Ostenberger, and like, I know it's not N. And then Dakota Homily is replacing Morgan Bailey. And so we're very excited to bring them on. If you guys have any general questions, I can answer them here in public, but if there's some particular questions based on the materials, the resume and the nomination, I'm happy to have a non-public later and come back out and make a motion to approve. And I was hoping we could get a motion to approve.
Do we have anything else for non-public?
Just a reminder that at this stage, all the contracts are contingent based on two things. Making sure they're certified, make sure they pass a background check, those are that's the Hampshire statute.
Yeah.
So we contingent, and then we make sure of those two things.
And also, just bittersweet, Carol's retiring, Carol H, I call her Carol H. And Morgan Bailey is expecting, very excited. And she plans to stay home with her new arrival.
Right. Any questions or comments? Otherwise, I'll take a motion from the board. Accept.
What, I don't have any questions. How do we present the motion?
As presented, a motion to approve the nominations as presented.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the nominations as presented.
I will second that.
Second by Mr. Amber. All those.
Rogers.
Rogers.
Right? Oh, was
We
it?
did it.
Oh, was it? All right.
All those in favor?
I thought I heard you. Yeah.
4-0. You're all set.
Thanks.
Excited. Good.
And then the second piece, we've done this in the past. As of now, we don't have any current openings in MV. But if something does happen, you know, we want to have the ability to be nimble and be quick. And the example I used at Sauhegan, we started this in early April. There would be like a 5-week hiatus in between meetings. And so you guys have seen in the past, typically they used to do it, you know, when Steve was in the superintendency, they started in like July, August. Then the superintendent started to move it to June. And then we started, because it got more and more competitive, you want to be quick and attract candidates, you moved it to May. And now, you know, when we opened up, and Tom can, you know, agree, you know, that there were teachers who were interviewing with us in end of March, early April, walking in with offers from other places. Teaching, you know, interviews are occurring in February, and that usually wasn't the cycle when we started this. And so the hiring season memo outlines a process that, you know, I was hoping the board could make a motion to allow, you know, us to, you know, the superintendent, the authority to offer contracts contingent on school board approval in between meetings to kind of lock people in. We went through the process. If you had questions, we could talk that through. If we needed to have a special meeting, we could get a special meeting. But this just allowed us to make sure that we were competitive and nimble and quick. And we're just asking for a little bit earlier based on the climate, you know, throughout New Hampshire. Last year we did it in May, July. Should be asking April this year.
I'll make a motion as presented to accept the proposal to allow hiring proposals to be made between regularly scheduled meetings.
So we have no open positions anyway at the moment.
At this,
We do have a pair opening still.
I got you, a pair.
Yeah.
Okay.
But pairs don't come to the board, you know,
Right,
but yeah, let's say someone in next week resigns and we open that position, we want to be able to move.
Second by Mr. Rogers, all those in favor? Passes 4-0.
Thank you. Board organization, we just gotta tie up a couple loose ends, and Andrew, I want to talk through a little bit with you. Did you commit, Chelsea believes that you committed to being on the Mount Vernon, the rep to the Mount Vernon Budget Committee last meeting, and I told her, I thought you talked
So
about
it
it.
wasn't on the list, but I said I would do it anyways.
Gotcha, gotcha, that's what it was, right? That's where the confusion was.
Yeah.
All right,
It says if they want it, I will go to those.
yes, we do want it,
Okay.
all right,
Well, it was at the request of the town last time
Yeah.
around,
right.
right? So the town needs someone to go to long-term planning or that public.
Okay, perfect. We'll get a motion to approve Andrew as the school district budget committee.
Okay, I will make that motion for Andrew to be the representative to the town budget committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right, and then the second one was, we just wanna, get a motion to approve both Pete and Leaf have graciously agreed to serve on the policy committee. Leaf, we're gonna work on, once we finalize all the members scheduling. So I know your work schedule is very tight and I appreciate you making it happen. So we'll figure that out to make it kind of work and so Pete also, because he had a little time, agreed to help with us. So if I could get a motion to approve Pete Eckhoff and Leaf Amber to the policy.
I will make said motion.
Second by Mr. Rogers, all those in favor?
All right, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it.
House cleaning there. Next up is our Mount Vernon Village School Facility Project Presentation.
Got it.
And for that, I will pass the baton over to Mr. Chamberlain. And it's also nice that Mr. Preston is here as well tonight. So, thanks, Michael.
Is there a fifth member of your board?
Mr. Torres couldn't be here tonight. He had a work commitment.
Thank you.
He's been literally swamped with the Pennachuck water merger, sale, whatever's going on. He's been busy. I should have mentioned that earlier, Ann. Sorry.
I was late.
And just so you know, if you ladies want to move over to see the screen a little bit better, you're welcome to. But, okay.
Maybe Colin isn't.
If you want.
No, I just making sure I had the same thing here. Yeah, it's the same. So just a little bit about tonight. So we, the board asked that after the presentation in October, we went through negotiations. We went through the budget development, board organization in March. And now we're at, in April, and the board asked to, let's take a look at restart the facility work. Tonight, we're gonna talk a little bit about the student experience at Mont Vernon Village Middle School as a 7th, 8th grader. And we're gonna talk about the cost of just operating, not the building, just operating in 7th, 8th grade. Take a look a bit about enrollment and then review the tuition agreement because it's going to be about that time. So the first one, the first part of this is the day in life of a middle schooler. And I just want to just get everybody on the same page of where we were. So I believe about 4 or 5 years ago, when the Amherst School District started taking a look at their comprehensive facility project, at one point, they were into renovating the middle school and also at the same time taking 5th grade and moving it down to the elementary school. That combination would have a significant impact on the tuition that Mount Vernon paid because of the potential bond, and they put out an $83 million bond project my first year here, which didn't pass. But that's the double. That is the capital investment through a bond, which the tuition agreement has payment from Mount Vernon, and also when the fifth grade leaves the school, it's the ADM of the middle school is in the tuition agreement, and that reduces the right denominator, so the cost goes up. So there was some sense of urgency in this community, just take a look and see what have options, because there was potentially a significant change in the tuition value. So they put together a committee, this was before I got here, a lot of excellent work. And one of the to-dos was to talk about the feasibility. Is it feasible to have a middle school here in 7th and 8th grade? So then I popped in, I was the acting soup for a little while, then the interim soup. And during that year, we wanted to take a look at the feasibility of a middle school coming here, which meant what would it be for the building and what would the cost be? And at the same time, when I was interim superintendent, back then Meg Beauchamp, who was the director of student services, and Dr. Heather Jennings, who was the assistant director, met with me and talked to me about their concern about the number of 15, 16, 17 preschool students in Mount Vernon who were getting related services. In longer term, we might need to look at a preschool program to provide required services on this site. So that was then added. It was the middle school was the beginning, and then the director of student services, and we talked about adding just a one-room preschool program of both typical development and those who need services. And then also when I was interim superintendent, we commissioned through New England School Development Council an enrollment projection from a firm that was very common in New England. And through that, we looked ahead, and we're going to talk about that tonight, looking ahead at the impact of a significant increase or a bubble in enrollment. So our job is trying to get ahead of all those things. It's just where we are in middle school, where we are on preschool, which preschool is not a focus. We can talk a little bit about it tonight, but I do want to be pretty specific about where we are in enrollment. So the middle school committee formed feasibility. The warrant article passed. The town supported putting funds in to look at the feasibility, and we selected a vendor. And then we defined educational specifications. The educational specifications drove the facility study by Harriman, which was presented in October. And in the feedback at October, some community members, including perhaps someone in the audience now, talked about not only the cost of this, but educationally, is it what's right for kids? And there was some work done in the middle school committee, the study committee, but we wanted to be very deliberate and purposeful and spend this time talking about what the current Amherst School District 7th, 8th days experience is, and also what could be the Mount Vernon 7th, 8th grade. See a little bit of contrast to help the board and the community decide, okay, this is what we currently have at this value, and this is what we could have, because they are not the same. A 650 kid middle school is different than a 2-grade, 140, 80 kid middle school. You with me? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And then we're also going to dig in on the enrollment bubble. I want to make sure this board has and looks ahead when's it coming and is ready for it coming. And we're also going to look at the tuition agreement, make sure the board is ready and understands the obligation of the current tuition agreement. Everybody okay?
I have a correction. If I may.
It's up to the board.
Go ahead,
Um,
Ann. I would like him to finish.
oh,
And then
I'm
you
sorry.
can
I
ask all the questions and notes, and I think we'll all come together. And then we'll absolutely take questions from you after, about this. And I say this,
I thought he was done.
no, this is gonna go on for a little while. Roger and I were joking. Steve's done a very good job of outlining the whole thing. And we'll take some questions there, and we appreciate it. So there, thank you.
So here we go. So at Amherst Middle School, right now, the Mount Vernon Village students get on a bus and they ride some buses are 30 minutes, some are 50 minutes, then they head to the middle school. When they get to the middle school right now, they arrive approximately 8:30, and there's 3 spots they go. They either can go to the blacktop and play games or they can go to the cafeteria and hang out, and they go to the library. And then the 7th, 8th grade students go into Launchpad. It's an advisory type experience in the 7th grade for about 12 to 15 youngsters. And there was one line I wanted to make sure I showed you. This one, sorry. Note, this content is conceptual only. It is not, if Tom and I met, but when Tom and I both understand that if this board decided to go middle school, it would be a collaboration with everybody in the school, right? This is a conceptual, based on what we did talk with 3 people, and Tom is a middle school expert and all that fun stuff. But I don't want you to think that this is not the only way to do it. It's legit work. But I want you to know, this is not the rule. This is a conceptualizing of what it could be in the 7th, 8th grade. You with me?
Yeah.
And I apologize for going backwards on that. So, so when we add 7th and 8th grade to the current buses, the buses would be a little bit longer, right? Because they now, instead of having K through 6, they have K through 8, so there's more stops. This would save funds. You'd no longer pay for the buses that head to the middle school. It would be just the Mount Vernon Village middle school buses. Right now, and this is a difference, the start time at this school is 7:30. So 8:30 it would be for 7th, 8th grade at Amherst Middle School. Here it would be 7:30. Students arrive here and they head right to the classrooms. And again, the cost of the ASD bus is limited. That's a savings that when Amy built a projected budget, she did factor that out. And because we're gonna have a projected budget at the end of this middle school program.
Can I just say something, Steve? real quick?
Please,
Please. Students begin the day in Launchpad at AMS. We do something similar. It's morning meeting, those of you that are familiar with it. But it's a similar community building time at the beginning of the day.
And that's by classroom,
Yeah, in the classroom.
right? So it's just about half a classroom when we do it in your classroom. Everybody okay? So that's how, so envision, that's the difference. So what's the difference?
In middle school, you can go between classrooms during that time period at AMS, right?
So at AMS, once you come in, the bell rings, you go to Launchpad.
Yeah.
Then after Launchpad, it's gonna be next. What happens next?
Yeah, but you're not locked into your lunch pad. You need to go see one of your teachers.
No, Launchpad, rare occasion. So win at the end of the day is for every teacher, but Launchpad, unless there's some rogue stuff, you're supposed to be at Launchpad. There could be some rogue stuff.
There's some road stuff.
And if a kid has some angst, I really gotta see a teacher who would support it. But structurally, want every student to have the 15-20 minute advisory experience, but of course, they do some.
Sorry
personalized-
to interrupt, Karen.
No worries. So what about, so at the middle school, they next go into physical education and health and the world language piece. So in AMS, they have physical education twice in a 6-day rotation. They have health once in a 6-day rotation, and they have a world language. They have 2 choices of world language at the middle school, Spanish and French, and they have them every other day for 2 years. So Tom and I looked at what the staffing would be and where we are in the entire building by, as we said in the ed specs, making teachers full-time in these areas. Phys ed and health would be once every 4-day rotation. World language could begin in 5th grade. So this could be an expansion, or the board could go every day in 7th and 8th, or every other day in 5 through 8, because that's when you hire a full-time, 1 world language teacher, full-time, those are the resources you have. And so that would be a decision of the board. But there would be a world language in our envision of Mount Vernon Village Middle School. Everybody with me?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody okay? Specials. So AMS for 7th and 8th grade runs an elective program. They can have coding, they have intro to engineer, they have family and consumer science experience, both the 7th and 8th. They have printmaking, graphic design, photography, drawing, guitar. And band, you have wood and percussion and brass opportunities. You have chorus, you have digital technology, both 7th and 8th. You have innovation, divine 7th and 8th. You have art experience, yearbook, ceramics, and guitar. So students in 7th and 8th grade elect those programs. In the middle school, you would have art all year. You'd have technology on a 4-day rotation all year. You have band chorus. Band and chorus would be outside of the school day. Basically, it would be a club just because of where we are. And yearbook would also be a club. So this is one of the just the differences when you have a 650 youngster school and you're with me, it's just a little bit different. So the AMS elective and rotation, but you still get art, you get technology, you would have music during the day. Sorry, make sure one of those would be music, and then but band and chorus would be after the school day. Everybody okay? So an intervention block. So after they go into specials in 7th and 8th grade, they go into Eagle block, which is every day for about 40 minutes, and they have time for services, remediation, extension. Tom and I talked about if you have a world language on day 1, you'd have your intervention block of the day 2. Same thing. You'd have time for intervention. So you have an intervention block every day at AMS. At the Mount Vernon Village Middle School, you probably have it every other day to also fit it in. Everybody, so we've arrived to school, we've had Launchpad, We've had PE, we've had health, we've had our special, we've had our intervention block.
So this block is where my kids get, basically they do their homework
Yes,
and they're able to go to a teacher and ask questions about the homework. If it's every other day instead of every day, now granted, the kids don't have homework every day, so Fridays it's not as useful, right? But you might have weird things where you might want to work with your schedule to make sure this opportunity is either every day or on the homework days, so.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is one of those things that it's hard to get into the weeds of this at this point.
Yeah.
I think conceptually, I think we can make that work.
Yeah.
I think we could offer it more frequently. It really depends on how much staffing we have to go, but I agree that especially in areas of enrichment and support, which is what we do with our win time. We're gonna have to take a deep hard look at that around what the best use of the time and the staff is.
and there's also, even at the middle school, not every student takes Willing. So the students who need maybe extra help, so even more time for homework, or more time for, like, we're looking at right now in 5th grade at the middle school, looking at doubling up and reading, doing core and more. So, again, this is the vast majority of kids, but Mr. Stokinger, to your point, if a youngster was someone who needed like a support every day, they could, world language, they could pick up when they were 9th grade, which many do.
Mhm.
Are you with me?
Yep.
Does that make sense? Everybody okay? So now we're through the intervention block. So what does the core content, math, ELA, science, and social studies, and this is where Tom and I had the most discussion, and this is 51-49, and I respect. This would be Maggie and Charlene and Zach and Tom, his team would get together to design how it works. We wanted to do something as similar to the middle school current offerings, but there's other ways to do this. So currently at the middle school is called departmentalized. You have a 7th grade math teacher, a 7th grade ELA, a 7th grade science, 7th grade social, and you rotate between them.
Mhm.
So you have someone who is you have a trained certified math teacher, or who has a concentrated, have increased professional development in math. You with me? And now in the AMS at 7th grade, you begin an opportunity to accelerate and have compacted math. That's because we have, it's a larger scale. We can have one section offer accelerated, and that's what they've done for a long time. When you have just 2 sections, you really don't accelerate, because that ends up being de facto tracking and you're sending kids in certain pathways. But when you have a larger distribution, you have that opportunity. So for this configuration, and this is where Tom had the most angst about committing, I completely understand, and he's the expert, but we just said to align it most closely with AMS, it's also department-led. So you would have a math teacher teach 2 7th grade classes and 2 8th grade classes. An ELA teacher, 2 7th and 2 8th. A science teacher, 2 7th and 2 8th. And a math teacher, I should have been social studies typo, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, we'll fix it sometime. And acceleration and would be differentiation in class, because again, you can't take one of them, right, and make one this and that. It doesn't really work for equity of opportunity. But absent the typo, you with me now, we could, like, currently it's teamed, right? You have a STEM teacher and a humanities teacher who does the social and doubles that way. You still could do that. But currently, to align this most closely to their current opportunity, we went departmentalized. Right with me?
Mhm.
So pretty similar. So lunch at AMS is at the grade level. You have the entire 7th grade has a lunch, 8th grade, we have 20-minute lunch at 10 minutes. Tom believes as you have it as a middle school, you still have 25 minutes lunch and recess. But look, and this is something that Tom and I both agree on. He won't kick me under the table. I won't kick him under the table. When you start looking at a facility for this, having a second gathering place, whether it's and this was you, and I appreciate your wisdom on this. You could, instead of building a gym, you could build another calf. You could have a calf and just but you need a gym and calf separate. Every school we talked, I mean, you were on some of those calls. Every school we talked about, when you go K-8, the cafeteria, that one, it does not work. Just because you need physical education and you have lunch. So it's very important that you look at 2 distinct spaces. You with me? But that's how lunch would work. Pretty okay? Special education, additional education services at AMS, you have, sometimes we have special educators or support people, specialists in class. Sometimes we have kids come out, if they're 3 or 4 grade levels behind, we provide more personalized discussion. And of course, at AMS, we have 2 New Hampshire Department of Education approved programs, one called Life Skill, one called My Time. And at Mount Vernon Village Middle School, we have push-in services, pull-out services. But if you, because of the just economy of scale, if there was a youngster who needed specialized support, they would probably be able to go to Amherst. There would be some agreement that allows that to go to Amherst. But those youngsters would not be attending the same school as their local peers. They'd still have age level peers. But now, for example, 7th grade, if you're in My Time, you go to lunch, you see your Mount Vernon friends. There you wouldn't. You with me? Because 7th, 8th grade here, we wouldn't have the capacity or the economy of scale to develop a life skills and a My Time program on this site. So that would be still tuition to another school. It doesn't have to be Amherst, but that would be a natural. That makes sense? Everybody okay? How about what happens at the end of the day? At the AMS, at the 24 minutes left in the day, every student can see any teacher in the building. It's called What I Need Time, 24 minutes, and they see teachers and they build an end of the day routine. At Mount Vernon Village School, they would end the day, they'd have a routine within their classroom with teacher.
Which is currently closing circle, if you're really following our schedule, that's good.
So what about after school? Now, right, school's ended, some kids have gone on the bus and went home, some kids haven't. What about after school? So we're the club's experience. So at AMS, there's 3, they do their clubs in 3 seasons. They have a fall season, winter season, and spring season. They're 5 to 10 week longs. Either if they're 5 weeks, it's twice a week. If they're 10 weeks, it's once a week. They happen from 3:30 to 4:30. Most have unlimited attendance. So a couple of them do, like family consumer science, right? You can't have 50 kids in there cooking. When they did a soup unit, everybody made soup and all that fun stuff. But if you're doing frisbee, if you're doing ultimate frisbee, or if you're doing something, most of them are doing mountain biking, I think might be limited. They have 18 club options. A few are full year, Junior National Honor Society, Jazz Club, Student Council, and Home Club. We put in the budget, we increased, what is it, 10 now, Tom? So I think
10 covers the entire building.
right, so we went to 14. So we put money for 4 more clubs to run them for the middle school. For the middle school here with me. We didn't make it flat. We added money in the budget. You with me? They're here, and Tom, there's 6-week blocks. Some are defined lower school, some would be defined upper school, and some were defined middle school, depending on what it was. And they're about once a week. But we'd have a 14 option menu for after school clubs and activities. Are you with me? Are you okay? So, right, we've had PE, health, we've had specials, we've had lunch, we've had an intervention block, we've had core activities. Now, some kids have stayed after school and they have clubs. Interscholastic sports, doesn't come out great. I apologize, it's not bigger. So what about interscholastic sports experience? So the governing body of middle school sports in our area is called Tri-County. At the middle school in the fall, they have boys and girls soccer A and B. A would be a Division II. B is either 5, 6, or depending on who else is running B teams. In the fall, you have field hockey A, B. Again, either 2 or 5 or 6 division. You have cross country, which is unlimited, and you have girls volleyball in the fall. In the fall, at Mount Vernon Village Middle School, you'd have boys and girls soccer, and you'd have cross country. Boys and girls soccer would be either Division 5 or 6, depending on them. But that would be a different, and there wouldn't be enough youngsters, and you wouldn't need a B team. But you still would have soccer, but you, probably not enough kids, Tom and I believe, to run field hockey or run girls volleyball. In the winter, you have boys and girls basketball, A, B, and spirit. No, we didn't put wrestling. Where's wrestling? I forgot wrestling, right? Yeah, I apologize. I did meet with folks, but we just missed wrestling in the winter. At Mount Vernon Village Middle School in the fall, boys and girls soccer. Whoops, sorry. In the winter, boys and girls basketball and spirit. We always do want to have an unlimited, right? So kids want to participate. In the spring, baseball, softball, AB, boys and girls lacrosse, AB, and track and field. And in the spring at Mont Vernon Village Middle School, we'd have baseball, softball, and track and field. And yes, you can run track and field without a track. It happens all the time in New Hampshire, especially at the middle schools. You go out and run, and then you only go to away meets that have tracks, and there's plenty to do. So this does not include a proposal to build a track at Mount Vernon Village Middle School, just so you know, but it is not a problem. Yeah, you do straight line hurdles, and you know what I mean, you work, the middle school that I was a principal of had a very successful track program without a track. So clubs, after school. What about additional events, special events? AMS, they have a theater program with a musical. They have 3 dances a year. The Globe Dance, the Shamrock Dance, the semi-formal. They also have in 7th and 8th grade a Battleship Cove experience, an ecology school overnight experience, a Strawberry Bank experience, and they go to hiking trips. And at Mount Vernon, we absolutely believe there'd be a play. I'm not sure about musical, depending on, you know, if there was a small cast musical. Certainly could have dances in 7th and 8th grade. Tom is a firm believer in a culminating experience in 8th grade, the social studies, he believes DC, New York, Philadelphia, but they absolutely would have an end of school experience. Excuse me, end of school experience or an additional content related experience. So if we, even though it was smaller, it doesn't mean you don't have that overnight experience that we have in the ecology school and the middle school. We still can emulate that experience, just a smaller version. You with me? So now this is just a projected operational cost. This is not, does not include any renovation bond. You with me? This is just to run it. And so the projected budget of the P all the way through 8 is 6,149,154. And we did that based on what we would do if we were hiring Master 7 teachers based on the new teachers contract. Now, the budget that we just was about 6.7 million. So the reason why there's savings is 2 big areas. One big area is tuition, right? We are not writing the approximately $1.5 million check for tuition. That disappears. And we're not paying those extra buses to bus to Amherst. And so there's about $585,000. But I just want to be clear, this $500,000, almost $600,000 does not include any cost to make this building possible to contain 7th and 8th grade with those programs. You with me? So if you were trying to go budget neutral, right, then you would have the ability, whatever bond you could obtain for $585,000 payment, that you would have to spend on the building to make the cost close. You with me?
Yep.
And so a $600,000 bond payment, we can go backwards. Like, we haven't done that, right? We built the educational specification, then Harriman built the school based on the ed specs. We didn't do it based on a possible delta with the tuition and fill in the gap. You can do that, but that wasn't the goal tonight. The goal tonight was just take a look at this. You with me? What I've got.
I have questions. But someone else, I'm willing to go to the public first if you want.
No, I have a rack, so you go.
I have a list too. We'll take turns. So sticking with that last slide we were on, just to clarify, when you estimated adding the teachers, what did you use for salary, or average salary?
We were hiring this year, we put the budget Master 7. With
That's
family help, Master 7 with family
Master
help.
7.
Okay, good. Master 7.
Please, this is not ready for
I'm
budget presentation and delivery.
I'm just testing.
But it's not also not something. This was developed and calculated based on estimates but it's not, but it's good. But it's not.
I felt like that was important.
FY 26 also, so
Yep.
it's just,
And we're opening this next year.
yeah, it's not projected for future years, it's just
And-
apples to apples FY 26.
Right, just to kind of level set that all our options are still open here. I guess this one's directed at Tom. If, do you think there would be a way to shift, is this planned for 2 lunches? 2 separate lunches? Or more? Is there 3 lunches?
Three.
3 lunches.
2 lunches now, we added a middle school lunch.
So I was gonna poke at the, you know. We talked about it, I understand what the suggestion was, but if the town really decided to be a little bit more. Tight-fisted with its money, could we make it work with just the 1 lunchroom and 2 lunches? Or is that not enough space in the lunchroom, not enough time to go through the lunch?
It's over and over again what we heard, and I just know, having run a middle school for all that time. Something has to give, the space just cannot, it just doesn't. We would have to cut back on programming around specials, and the experience would be very different.
So when schools did it. You eat lunches in classrooms. And it changes your entire culture and climate.
Oh, no, I'm talking about like K-4 lunch and a 5-8 lunch. So that's what I had in my 200-person
Gotcha.
K-8 school when I was younger.
Gotcha.
And you can swap and have, and I know it's not ideal, but you have the older kids have recess lunch instead of lunch recess, and therefore you're swapping off and you don't need the second thing, and you don't have a detriment to your educational time. I don't think that's a great plan, but I just want to confirm, like, we're still completely open here,
Yes.
and that could be on the table.
Yeah.
It's not just about 2 lunches, though, it's also about the fact that you have to have classes during that block. You can't run PE
No, I'm
9.
saying, if the whole school is either outside or eating lunch, and then they switch, you don't have to have classes during that block.
And we can run a schedule. And yes, everything is on the table.
It's a very hard one, but I mean, I lived it for 10 years, so,
Right, you can do anything.
yeah,
And. We just have to measure, right,
the impact.
the impact, but, and this was. Yeah, I mean, you were there, I thank you
Yeah.
for joining me all summer, and we're not fabricating anything,
Yeah.
but, it would, I think if, you've got time. I would charge Tom and his group to put together a schedule. A real schedule with, with Jim and half separate. Cause it's, we talk, Mike and I and Amy, we talk about 20-year decisions. So the next 20 years, it's gotta figure out how you're going to impact the program. But yes, Mr. Stover, to your point, and everything's on the table.
All right, and then the other part about the savings here, this is amazing, this is what we asked for, and I realized just now, didn't ask for something else. But you might already have the number. If the 5th grade had moved to Wilkins like that proposal that didn't pass, what would be the increase?
And we can get that number to you,
Yeah,
and happy to talk about that.
we can take, I'd also like to know, remember 3 years ago, we had that projected repairs?
I'm sorry?
3 years ago, we had, there was a proposed bond to fix the middle school in Amherst. And there was a projected, amount that Mont Vernon would be responsible for, based on our current contracts and everything.
Yes.
I forget how much that amount was, it's 7 million, 11 million?
So, just to be fully transparent.
It failed, but,
Right, there is currently,
Yeah.
one of the things you're gonna see in a moment is to monitor everything closely. The Amherst School Board has made a decision not to bond middle school projects.
okay,
It is pay as you go. For example, they've done $2 million with projects over the last 3 years out of fund balance, which does not charge on the MS DOE 20-something,
The DOE 25.
the 25.
Hmm.
And so it doesn't get to the cost per pupil, so it doesn't impact the tuition. However, full transparency, if you're keeping score.
Hmm.
There's $7 million left of roof work. They still would like to take as much as they can, but this year, in this year's budget, as a warrant article, in order to do the next, they added $400,000 on a raise and appropriate. that goes to the 25,
Yeah.
which goes to the cost per pupil, which goes into tuition. It's not a carve out, it's a tuition charge.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah.
So I wanna be honest about that, but everything else they've done so far is fund balance, which you've already paid into as part of your tuition.
Good, good, good. So they're being really good to us.
But I'm, this is not saying that they will always do that. That's why you have a wonderful superintendent and a wonderful business administrator who will always come back and say, this is what they're doing, because they are at, and this is all public, right? They don't know, they're at a figuring out stage again, because they didn't make any progress. They're 54.5 to 50, I mean, a half a point in the
It is.
vote.
Yeah. it's about 55.
So, because there's not just savings, we're also looking at, if we already know our increased bill to Amherst is going to be X. We can take that into
Yeah,
account. So
that would
it's not
increase
just
your
a-
delta, that would increase your delta.
Yeah,
And we can talk about it, we have an old number, but we can refresh it, we can talk about that. And there's also sometimes, you know, you can look at tuition, we're gonna talk about the tuition agreement later.
Yeah.
But yes, we can get that number, because you're right, Amy and I just talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
It increases that delta. If the tuition goes up, the delta goes, right, your tuition now is 1.5, it goes up to 2, don't quote this 2 number. But then that 2, that now becomes, right, $1 million,
and
and that
so,
changes your bond payment.
so my request would be, next month, the month after.
Sure.
When you have some numbers of what it would have costed us. Knowing that those proposals failed, just as a what if.
Yeah, we can do that for you.
So we know, we should figure out based on FY 24, but we can't do it yet for 25 because we won't do the DOE 25 until it's really at the end of the summer.
Yeah, it's the ballpark,
Yeah,
right? Because if
and
you
then there
take,
are assumptions we would have to make because we're really coming up with.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a real number, so we would have to make assumptions on what would get factored out and what would stay in.
In enrollment and the number of
Right.
kids, but
Yeah.
but
order of
We can-
magnitude, we
we
need like
can
an
do
order of
it.
magnitude
Yeah,
answer.
and we actually did do it, but it's old, so,
we were messing around one day, that's what we do for fun.
yeah.
Okay, that's what I had for questions.
Scott?
I have a question about buses. We currently have 3 at Mont Vernon. Did you look at numbers of adding 6th and or 7th and 8th graders to those? Would they all fit in
Yes.
the same 3?
We all fit, we did.
So we just removed the buses to go to the middle school, so we saved about 28,000 from that.
So I'm gonna follow up, and I don't know, and I should, but I don't. Our students from middle school are riding on a bus with or without the high school students.
So when they go to 7th and 8th grade, they get picked up here and they pick up Amherst kids along the way. So they are, yeah. It's a cobble, actually one, I think there's one alone, just Mount Vernon, and 2 cobbled together, I think, Karen told me.
I think so, yeah.
So based on the routes.
So they pick everybody up here.
Yep, for the 8, so when they go to the middle school, it's an 8:30 start. So after they finish here,
Yeah.
they drop off and Tom does his thing. Then they go and they pick up all the 7th and 8th graders and go towards the middle school. And yes, high school kids, I'm sorry, yeah, high school kids are on that bus too.
So would we still need to pay for the bus for high
We
school?
still have to pay.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
If you're making 3 bus runs, I can see.
Yeah, no, I think we gotta put it back in, because it's how he gets.
Those buses are just
We
gonna.
were so excited, I'm sorry, we were so
I
excited.
just was trying to figure out, like, all right.
We were excited,
I got excited too.
and it's,
that's my fault,
well, no.
I apologize.
'Cause
We
it's
did dig in
labeled-
on
it's
buses.
labeled middle school, so I was like,
That's
oh,
why,
great. we
it's a
can
middle
pull it
school
out.
cost, but it's
Middle school
also,
cost.
There's-
but it might be shared
So
differently,
actually,
it's gonna be shared
It's gonna be
differently.
shared differently,
Yeah.
so I have to do a calculation.
Yeah, it's not, yeah,
So some of it will come out.
Like
yeah,
I have,
It's-
that's my kid's bus is.
The bus,
Yeah.
the buses
Yeah.
are crazy complicated
Yeah.
because of, you know, and we have this crazy spreadsheet with formulas, so it won't be all of it, but you
Yeah.
can shave
Yeah,
some. of
that's
it.
thank you,
Yeah.
you are 100% right,
Yeah.
and it's very
No, that's
funky,
good.
because we took out the middle school version of
You
it,
did.
but there's
Yeah.
more to it.
And then my other question, we talked, I'm big on sports, so if we had, say, soccer for boys and girls, do we have a field?
Yes. But well, we would have to construct it, we would have to improve the field.
Right, but we've got like over there.
Yeah, we would have to improve it. But when Harriman looked at it, it is makeable into a middle school level field, not a high school level to middle school.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I had.
Are any of the courses at AMS like backwards compatible planned, designed to lead into high school level classes as like prerequisites? And if so, is that something that we could replicate with a Mont Vernon Middle School?
Yeah, so one of the tenets or principles is, the curriculum in SAU 39 is consistent. Because they're all coming together at the same time. And we've talked about that. So one of the difference would be that currently Mount Vernon students can get a 9th grade math class done by 8th grade because of the compact accelerated. But the middle school program, the 7th and 8th grade program here would align with the 7th and 8th grade program there. That's one of our guiding tenets is that they're all going to Souhegan, we really have to have the same educational standards and backgrounds.
So then it would be every kid at Mont Vernon who was in that accelerated to go into the 9th grade math? Is that how that would work? Would every student here at a middle school take that? You said it was, I'm sorry.
So
Dan?
it's called compacted. If everybody, we thought it would be, yeah, it's either everybody or none.
Yeah, okay.
Just because otherwise you do put tracking in and change
Yeah,
the equity
right.
experience for kids.
Okay.
And again, Charlene, Maggie, Zach, Tom.
Yeah.
Mike, this is a collaborative, but typically, this is what typical middle schools would do, this, I think, we talked to the similar size schools.
Yeah.
Going back to lunch real quick, what is the average size or how many students are in the lunchroom at one time? On average,
So we have K3 and a lunch, that's about. It's about 130. In there. And then the 4, 5, 6. Is about 100, maybe a little over 100.
and right now the gym's max capacity is somewhere like 500, right?
Funky with when you have one
Yeah.
table, it changes because of table.
What is that number?
We can get it.
I think you're more limited by the lunch line.
Yeah,
So you have to actually get everybody to
Served and eaten time.
get served
yeah,
and give them enough time, and that's really the limiting factor.
that's what I was thinking. I'm just wondering if like. Getting had a smaller footprint to get away with.
All good thoughts.
The, real quick too, I guess the other part of this, that is obviously from a numbers perspective is initially appealing. Also the student experience itself, going from 6th to 8th grade, being exposed to Amherst Middle School, then it's obviously, as we all know, we all were once there. It's a big jump from 8th grade to high school now being, so I think that's something else. I don't know if you're gonna touch upon that.
No, and this was the day in the life of the day, but we have had discussions about what's the best time to transition. Is it best to transition K8 and then 9th grade as your first experience, or is it best to go to a 7th and 8th and then? So that can be, we can look into that and have a specific, but yes, we have talked about it, but this was just trying to look at more program, to be honest with you.
And honestly, I don't have a leaning one way. I don't know. I guess something to
Like,
consider.
And you get, like Chester, right, K8, Chester goes, Mount Vernon, almost identical if you added 7th, 8th grade here. The day after Chester, 330 kids, do you know where they go? Pinkerton Academy. They go from a school of Mount Vernon size, if you add 120 kids, to over 2,000 kids. You know what I mean? So could these kids transition to Souhegan, a 700 kid? Yes. Is that what's best? But if, you have it's what this community values.
So I went to a school that was 180 kids and then transitioned to a high school where there was 3,500 kids. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I don't have just. This means one way or another.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, so it is something, and Mike talks about this a lot, I appreciate it, it's the values of this community. There's a value, we get together at 7th and 8th grade, we start developing that bonds, and then we have 6 years together, or is the value, or it's also, we know, and it's not what is affordable. That's a piece.
So I would actually advocate, like, if Amherst shifted things around and offered a 6th grade. And we need the bubble classroom, like I would almost ask if we could have the 6th grade move up there as well. Right, to keep us from having to make the bubble classroom.
Andrew, we talked about that.
Right,
have that discussion. And if we're just talking, and I know there's,
but yeah,
you could do, if it's sixth grade, increase your tuition.
Right.
But it would take care of your facilities issues, including if this community valued and decided to start looking at preschool.
right, you'd have the classroom for preschool and the both.
Yep.
Right, you don't have to build anything,
Nope.
so. But that's all contingent on it passing. You know, Wilkins passing and then having the space.
There's two more, there's two more sections to this presentation.
Sorry.
Nope, and I'm sure. I'm gonna keep going.
Just one question about the number you have for the previous budget, that's the FY 26
That's
budget,
26,
but
yeah.
that doesn't include the increase of the teacher's salary, right?
It does.
Or, because that's on a separate warrant, right?
How did you put it in? $100,000 for 110,000
Because that's another
teachers that get added in.
5,000.
Oh, so that should be 69 or 6,900.
I would like to make one comment on this slide.
It's all right, so the delta will be a little bit bigger. You get a ding ding, you get a ding ding,
Yep.
please.
One comment on this slide is the savings is not just once, it's every year.
Yes.
So that's how you pay for the cafeteria, you would need to build a classroom.
Yes.
That's, if you're looking at 20 years ahead, that's.
Yes, and that's what I meant to say that, that's because you pay the bond payment, it is every year.
At 6%, it's like 6.5 million, 7 million.
And if I didn't convey that, I apologize, I mean, you're right.
I want to make sure everybody knows those savings are continuous.
How conservative are they with their budget numbers?
I'm sorry?
Were they a little padded or were we a little?
Oh, no,
I think they wanted to be fair. I mean, that's why they did
no, it was the ed,
Master 7 and.
you were here, and the ed specs, the board adopted the ed specs, so, before we send it to Harriman, the board, I did a similar presentation on what we need after the summer work, and they adopted, we followed that, I think. The only thing that wasn't in the ed specs was we added a couple $1,000s for the 14 clubs. That was new, just because we have another 100, we have another 2 grades of kids who wanted more clubs. So I made that liberty, I took that liberty.
So the teacher contract isn't in either one, so it would be.
Oh, it's not in either.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a wash.
So,
Yeah.
but, right, but the projected one is assuming additional teacher, that's on assumed salary.
So there's maybe a little bit.
So, yeah, okay.
Does the projected budget account for additional personnel aside from those 4 teachers
Yes,
in world language?
tech, world language, special education, speech, psych.
Oh,
We did not, because of my facility director boss, add additional square footage for custodian because he felt okay.
okay,
It was we tried,
and no additional admin.
and against my other bosses that right now, there is based on data, the number of referrals where we are, it could change over time, but based on the current data, we feel we can add, those kids can remain. And this is just it's not back of the envelope, but it's not precise either. This is a deliberate and thoughtful ed specs to this, to this, to that, to that.
Yeah, so it's adding in like the 3 to 5 days of very specific roles, and we went over this in the past.
Yes.
Based on 8 months ago or whatever, the exact, okay.
Yep, but we built the ed specs, handed off to Harriman. Harriman presented, board community wanted this to make it a value decision of what program. And we'll keep going. We okay? These aren't anywhere near as long. These are just some quick hitters. All right, so let's cock and roll. So,
You need me to move the slide?
no,
This is an old report though, right?
so this is November 2024, not too long ago. And though right when this went to print in my little world, we've got the spring catch up, April catch up, and these numbers didn't show. So, full transparency, if you go right here, the lower grade level enrollments are less statistically reliable to the small grade cohorts. It's hard to pick kindergarten until we have some time over time. But the way they do this is they do go to a birth records. They look up and they look in town reports and they do this stuff. So, and this is where, and Tommy and I spent some time, I spent some time with Mike and Amy and Heather, because this is just a little forecasting. So we're in, next year is 25-26, right? We just did FY 26. Kindergarten's 34. No problem, 217s. Life is good. 26-27, kindergarten goes projected to 45. 22-23, kindergarten. I'm talking with Heather and Mike and Amy and Tom. We don't necessarily want to go to threes, but we probably would add a classroom assistant, one classroom assistant to support. That's what they do in Amherst when they get 22-23s. You add another set of hand, helps, especially early in the year. Early in the year, the littles are littles, end of the year, they're not. So we're not necessarily saying go to 3. You with me? But add some support. So the next year, all right, now we're in first grade, 24-25. That's 2 years in a row. We're getting close here. Probably that classroom assistant stays with them, knows the kids, loops with the kids, knows. Because now we're 24-25 with the second adult, we're probably okay. Tom's getting nervous. He told me he's getting nervous right now, right? We got a big class up. All right, and then we go here. We are 28-29, 53, we are 3. The classroom assistant goes away. That's the savings in the budget. Now we're at 3. Now, and this is where my boss could say, Steve, you probably weren't doing a great job on the bubble being a renovation to the space. Because after looking at this and really looking at this, it's not a consistent, the classes behind it are still good 2s. You with me? So it's not necessarily a trend, it looks like a bubble. And when Amy and I talked about this a lot, if you have a bubble, a temporary increase for a few years, what might be the solution is a portable classroom. That's really what a portable works for. If it's not, portables to me doesn't work for 20 years, but could it work for a few 4 or 5 years, right? Something to think about, but it goes, if you brought 6, it'd be a little bit different. So that's then eventually 53, 56, we get to 60 and 60 is 3s, everybody, we're not going 30s. So the recommendation is, I can hit it, mic off, but it doesn't matter, just hit it. That one. So the NESDAQ report is very important to Mount Vernon, right? Kindergarten was in my last life. Like I would start kindergarten registration fetch it now. I really wouldn't do it now, but start early. Get those numbers because it does impact things. But I think it's a bubble, it's not a trend. So I think next year's budget to start evening things out, start saving some money. Maintenance trust, separate trust, whatever you want to do. And you're going to look at the language for the trust. Can you save for a portable in the trust? Beginning in FY, which is next year's FY 27, it gets you 3 years to put. And Roger, who knows everything in the world, would say, look, in order to put a portable in Mount Vernon, this is a spot, it's going to cost us with electric, with heat, with toilet, it's going to cost $272,000. We're going to lease it. Board's going to lease it for 4 years. It's going to cost that, but we need infrastructure of this, and you start saving. If you decide to go portable way, you with me? But it's time, right? It's look ahead, and I sat with Heather, Dr. Heather Jennings, who lives in Mount Vernon. And I went through this with her because it does impact everything. And she said, my daughter, she has a youngster in the bubble. And on her streets, kindergarten to her left, kindergarten to her right. We don't have a lot of data, but she believes that a lot of her friends have kindergarten in Mount Vernon. You with me? So enrollment, take a look. It's in the slides. Those are it now. We just got the spring refresh. NESDAQ does a free spring refresh. Those numbers didn't change. The numbers that had those red arrows, I looked, they didn't change. Okay. But I could change the date. I didn't change the date. You with me? So just keep an eye on it. But in next year's FY 27, start thinking about putting money away to soften the blow. 3 years from now, you don't want to buy a whole portable and put $200,000 infrastructure 1 year. You with me? If you're going to go portable. So this is foretelling. And NESDAQ's pretty good. Cool beans? Okay. All right, last thing real quick, I'm sorry, it took longer than my boss. Questions about that, we're okay? It wasn't long, right? It's on the time. Last piece, the tuition agreement. right? A couple meetings ago, we talked about when does it come, so this is important. So a couple of things about the Amherst Mount Vernon School District Tuition Agreement. It was ratified in November 3rd, 2020. When they agreed to it, it's an agreement. Mutual option, mutual, both parties have to agree, the Mount Vernon School Board and Amherst School Board, you with me? And what Amy found out a long time ago, because I didn't know this, but she found a long time ago, even the extension has to go to the school district. We'll verify that, but I know you told me that. You talked to peeps. So on the FY 27 warrant, the approval of the town to extend the contract by 5 years. It's in the agreement. MV shall must, by October 1, 25 this year, as to whether or not it wishes to extend the agreement. So you would say, the board would vote, actually, yes, we request that the Amherst School Board extends the agreement. It's in the agreement, not a renegotiation. The board, previous board signed an agreement that included an extension. Now you can ask them to reopen, but they don't have to, because you signed an agreement with a 5-year mutual extension. You both can mutually agree not to and start over, but it's already baked in. You with me? And then by October 30, it's funny, they didn't do 31. Okay, unless I wrote that wrong, after the stuff I missed, it could be. ASD shall give written notice to you, my friend, to the chair, whether or not wishes to extend. And then it goes on, I believe, but we'll verify all this, we get time, it's not tomorrow. And it goes on both warrant articles. Okay? In talking with my boss, think about getting this done, not waiting until the last minute in October. Right, because by October 30, Amy's already in the draft one of the budget. So you really would like all this, I mean, done. And even if you wanted to do it in June, if you're thinking about it.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about potentially starting a little bit earlier, May or June, to bring here and have the conversation and move it along. Not there yet, but it's just, I don't wanna, my recommendation would not be waiting, to get the process going. And, so just something to think about, not for tonight, really, but just putting it out there.
So, if I interpret it correctly, if we tell them we'd like to extend and they tell us they'd like to extend, regardless of whatever warrant articles they put up over the next 5 years for different buildings in Amherst, we're both, they and us are locked into it.
That's
right?
correct, sir.
So they will have to give us space for our at least 7th and 8th graders all the way through 2031.
Yes. And there isn't, when we were talking about the project that didn't pass, we were in a 4-year window. 3 to 4 year building that element, so and that didn't. In full transparency, you can watch it, the Amherst School Board has not made a decision, yes or no, about bringing a project to the warrant in 27. Last year, they had received significant public input. And the year before, they didn't have a full cycle of informing the community. The year before, the first year of 54, they voted in November to send it to the warrant. And they had a very short window to communicate with the Amherst community. Last year, they tried to, look, do it with a full cycle of education and see if it, and it didn't move the needle. But I don't think, and Mike will let you know, and Amy and Rob will let you know, but they have not decided at this point to send a project to the 5 years is a good time period, but you know what I mean? Sorry, I think I made a little. Is that clear?
Yes. Yes.
What's our enrollment up at Amherst right now? 7, 8. How many kids we got there?
120?
60 per.
Yeah. Yeah,
No, 60.
Grade.
7th and 8th grade, 16 each, yeah.
60 total.
No, you got about,
No,
uh,
So
it's a little over
40,
70.
80 maybe?
about 80.
No, you get 2 classes of,
Two classes of 30.
Tom, how much
That's
is
about
it?
60 students.
Yeah.
60 students.
Yeah, plus or minus.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll-
58 to 61, somewhere in there.
70, I would say.
Yeah, it could be a little higher.
The average is about 35.
17, 18 is 35, about 70 kids. We'll find out for you.
Yeah, the average grade level is 35. The average.
And the 60s coming. Yeah, the big thing tonight is just keep an eye on the bubble. Understand a little bit about the program. And we don't want to lose the October 25 date. Cool beans? Thank you, everybody. That's all I had.
And you had some questions. Thanks for your patience.
Correct. So I served on the committee in 2022. And there were two options. One was to establish a middle school here and the other was K through 8. Never talked about pre-K.
That's true.
Set that aside. We didn't know about the bubble either, but that's another thing we can put aside. But the difference between a 7 and K through 8 and the middle school is quite different. And this was based on middle school. So I don't know if it's possible to do the same evaluation with K through 8.
This
Yes.
is this was a K through 8.
But
I thought this presentation was the estimates for a K through 8 in this building.
it's middle school all the way through, it's labeled, so I don't know.
So it was partitioning. It was having, as you said, in the middle school, it was having a 7th grade math teacher and an 8th grade math teacher. The credentials could be either K8 or 512 would make them work. I will absolutely look, the ed specs was developed talking to both people who had a school within a school, middle school and also K8. I'm not sure the program would be drastically different.
I think there was a space addition for a middle school with a health teacher added to the, I didn't hear you say health teacher when you talked about that. It was all too fast for me to write down.
We're good.
Okay, so that's the first.
So Ann, one second, we will be making this presentation public and people will have access to it and so as you go through it. So it was rapid fire, right? Like,
Absolutely.
and so you go through it and then we can revisit it and talk through questions and scenarios if you don't get them in tonight, for sure.
I think one of the recommendations of that committee was to find out about the facility, but it was also to evaluate the emotional and social aspects of children, and I don't see that we've talked to anybody but architects outside our circle. So I think it's important, if we have money left, somebody that knows about that. I don't know if you can find somebody readily who could tell you about that, but the emotional and social aspects of moving these kids, keeping these kids here is important, and it's gonna be an important thing for voters to think about. Because it's not just money. It's what's best for the children, and that's a piece that I think is still missing. So the contract also has a 2-year I quit clause, and either school district can operate.
That's
that.
true.
So Amherst can tell us, you're out of here in 2 years, or we can say to Amherst, we're leaving. That's another piece of the pie. So I really think it's important for us to have you folks look at the tuition agreement that we have. And it's the reason we have Souhegan High School is the reason stemming from that agreement. Because we pay a lot of money, and we have no control, we have no vote, we have no representation. So taxation without representation is the buzzword around about 250 years of America. But we should think about that. Because what Amherst decides to do, like spend $7 million on a road, we have no say in that. And if they do their $43 million, and I was happy to hear that they've decided not to do a $40 million renovation to the school, but if they did, we would have no say. So our town value, the town assessment was this year. And we all know it went up 18% or so. And I don't know when Amherst's last assessment, townwide assessment was, but their assessment. So there are two parts of the tuition agreement. One is how many kids we send there every day, and the other is based on town evaluation. So half and half, I believe, is the agreement. So our state went up 18%. And I don't know when their latest assessment was, but say it's 4 years old. And then they get, if it goes up 18 or 20%, then it'll be better for us. But those are things that I learned serving on the first committee that I think is important for people to understand. I'm glad you clarified that $585,000 was. And whether it's 400,000 or 600,000, doesn't matter to me. That money can be used to build on whatever facilities we need. The way we were talking about, we need an extra cafeteria space and we need an extra classroom for the bubble. Those can easily be paid for with those savings. So I wouldn't worry at all about the amendments that we talked about to the building. So.
I want to say just one thing, if I wasn't clear, I apologize. You're absolutely correct. So the preschool piece came up after. It was not, and so was the bubble. But as you said, I've tried to say that because originally it was middle school, but when the director of student services during my time showed concern about her having a place to fulfill our requirements for preschool students, that's when I first brought it to this board 3 years ago. And that was, and then in the bubble, you said it correctly, at least we got that far, that came up after too.
So we did not look at those two things, and they are important for us to address.
And we can, part of the social emotional piece for me is what was alluded to in the transition. Right, is it best for kids K-8 here, or is it, when is the transition? But yes, we can dig in. This was, I hope, progress on what you're looking for.
This is excellent.
But we can do the social emotional stuff too. We have people in-house, middle school counselors who know kids and have a different experience. And it's probably outside of my expertise.
I would recommend go outside our circle to somebody, because they're gonna be 70 parents or 140 parents who come to the meeting about keeping the 7th and 8th graders here. Who wanna know what emotional and social impacts it's gonna have on those kids.
I appreciate it.
That's another piece of the puzzle, Ann, and I think, maybe this project has gone a little bit slower than some of the community members have wanted it to, but given time restraints on everybody involved in it with meetings and everything else. But I think what we've done so far is delivered. I think we spent our money wisely with the warrant article funding that we got. We still have quite a bit left. We've got excellent reports and reports and designs from the Harriman. Tonight was awesome. And now what you're talking about, socio part of it is just another piece of the puzzle. I'm speaking for myself here. What I envision is within a sooner than later time frame, we have got to put all these pieces together and have an open house, an open school or whatever, and have our subject matter experts available to the community all at once. This is the building, this is what the cost, this is the staffing, this is all those elements, so we can get it out. Because we just can't keep kicking the can down the road, as you know, with the agreement coming up, we've got to make somewhat of a decision, but I'm trying not to pat myself on the back, because I wasn't heavily involved, Andrew was more involved, but Steve and the staff, I mean, the amount of time that Steve put into this, along with other teammates. So there's been a lot of time and energy spent, and I think to date, I'm happy with what we're getting.
I am too, but October 1st looms heavily with me, because I don't want this contract to continue for 5 years at least. Because I think we need representation and a voice in what happens where we send our kids.
And I'll tell you, Ann, I'm with you. But you know what's gonna be the next conversation out of that? Consolidation. I just need you to know, they go hand in hand, and everything kind of starts to build off of one another, but I'm with you.
We've been down that road 10 times, I think we should be able to tell them it's.
I know, I'm just telling you what's muddies the water too for people, and you know that better than I do, I mean, I just got here. And cause I've had the conversation that you're talking about right now with people, and that is immediately probably brought up, right? And I have no opinion on that, I wanna say that out loud in a public setting, and so, but I know that conversation goes together. And so, I'm with you, I hear what you're saying, so.
I think the road in 1989, or I think it was 89, maybe 80, to go to a separate high school was because we didn't have always had enough and needed it at Amherst. So there were it talks about going to schools, two different schools, like Mont Vernon, Milford. There was talk about other school partnerships. We ended up with Sohegan, which has worked beautifully. And the tuition agreement, or the cost that Mont Vernon paid is pretty much based on that tuition agreement that we used for years for this middle school. But now we have two voices on the board, and we get to say what happens to our.
And I think when you talk about money, the factual parts are very important to people. Having control of where your money goes and a say is very important. Then you bring the parents of the children in, then the emotion piece comes in, and that's the part that's hard to control. So I think having some statements from people who come from smaller communities, where there's schools that feed into a larger school, that can give some emotional, powerful statements, that would be helpful.
But time is waste, time is a waste.
So. Can I ask a question? Sure. All right, so, some math requests, I guess. We talked about last time how, we had proposals from Harriman that had their costs, not real costs from a builder. And it was brought up that they had to wrap in a lot of things that are on the long-term facilities plan. And that maybe we wanted to price out how much would we do anyways in the next 10 years? And say, well, we're gonna build this into this cost, but we want the public to know this is money we would have spent the next 10 years anyways on repairing the school. And I thought that was a valuable piece to know, and I think we had that request in August or September when we had the discussion. And then we talked about maybe sending out these proposals for getting a real cost.
Yeah, and no, thank you, and Roger and I talked about that. I think what we haven't done, because we went right into negotiations and budget, was we would like Harriman to come to talk with Tom and his team to see if the structural design works. And then, yes, and Roger is here, we need a construction management cost. To really, and so we need to refine the building to see if it works for those who are here. Refine, maybe it's reduced, maybe let's look at different things, and then determine the cost. Construction management cost, because it is different. It's not a square footage cost, it's a building cost.
Meeting with the teachers, and Tom is gonna refine the conceptual drawings that they brought forward. It's gonna provide more detail from them. Typically, architects do not provide pricing for projects. Harriman did. Harriman's pricing are high level because they don't know the fixtures or the actual materials that are going into the building. Those discussions haven't been had as far as resilient flooring. What is Tom looking for furniture in these spaces? So they have a high level of assumptions right now when it comes to cost of the building. Meeting with staff, meeting with us defines that more. But at the end of the day, typically you go out to a third party CM that takes that conceptual design with the information that they provide behind it, saying we're doing resilient flooring, we're doing this types of furniture, this types of built-in, this types of furniture. You get those costs from the CM, but you also have to engage in a site and civil contractor. We need to make sure wherever we're proposing the renovation or the site, that the land is actually suitable to build on. You do that by just test pits. We've looked at our septic as well. We know that we have septic leach field on this side, and we're also tied into our old leach field in the back from the original building. So it's engaging with those contractors, but it's making sure that working with the architects that we have the design that works for the building. If there's a building committee up at Mount Vernon, other towns have that to engage, to be a part of that as well. School board members join some of those meetings at times so that they're engaging in part of it. But that internal meeting defines the scope and gives you the numbers from the third party.
That sounds like a lot. Is
It
that achievable before October?
That's not achievable before I.
And
You use the architect's number, they can design a building that fits that number with agreement from the building committee. So,
And
but the other thing is there were 4 designs that Harriman presented. Have you decided on one of those designs?
not to, speak, that's where the internal meetings actually happen with administration to review those designs, to talking with the team, to say, getting the feedback, do those designs actually work for the building and the staff. That portion hasn't happened with the staff.
I wouldn't be ready to pick one yet. No, not without that.
And to peel out a lot of the things that ended up on their list needs to happen before it goes anywhere else too.
Yeah, because what they presented are like 3 different possible options, but not, it has to be refined to. It's what we actually need.
And that's really where that teacher meeting really needs to take place to define that scope. And then once that scope is defined, approved, that's usually where we go to that CM. We don't want to have a CM price something where we're at right now, because that number isn't actually going to be accurate, because we don't actually know what that design is.
Is that included in the current contract with Harriman?
Yes.
Come back and do that?
Yes. Harriman has their own costs, but we also have separate numbers that we haven't, that are used for, I think it was 60,000 approved.
That's the total.
60,000 was approved. I think we're committed to Harriman for 38,000.
Yeah.
With the design, that leaves us some funding for site civil and CMs.
Site civil museums, the site and civil were supposed to be in the design that they did. So they were supposed to have reached out to site for civil engineers. When they put together those packages.
The entire 60 grand will include all of those vendors, but we've only contracted Harriman for the conceptual design portion of it.
I think they were, I agree with Ann, I think they were responsible for ensuring that what they were proposing would fit the footprint of what we had. As far as being able to put whatever they were talking about, addition or whatever.
Civil engineering.
Civil engineering, I think that they've already
Check the
done some of that.
contract.
Right, we can review that, Roger.
That's a different question.
A thing that,
That's a different question, though.
a thing that I would like to know is, can we tell the Amherst School District by October 1st, we don't want to do the same agreement for the next 5 years, we want to renegotiate, is that possible? And that's probably a lawyer. I don't know.
I mean, you can always ask, but the board and the town approved a contract with a 5-year extension.
And we'll look into it.
With an option.
Correct, with an option for 5 years.
Right.
I'm not sure I'm not sure there's an option for renegotiation. It's either we're in or we're out, I think.
Well, I
You
think
can
we could
always
always,
negotiate.
if we're out, we could always renegotiate. A lawyer needs to look at the terms, I think.
Can you quarterback? Connecting with Harriman and Roger and Tom, so Tom can coordinate his staff members that he wants to include in that
Absolutely.
mind meld, and then get a date.
We're trying to do that soon because teachers go off for summer. So
Yeah.
again, we're working with science labs that we can doing the same thing, trying to engage teachers before we go off.
And certainly I would be interested in eavesdropping on that
Awesome.
conversation and anybody else on the board, so.
Just if it's a quorum, we just have to post it as a meeting. So
And depending on timing, I'd listen in, but
Yeah, we should, if we can fast track that a little bit. If they're available.
I'm also willing to not listen, so we don't have to have a board.
Yeah,
So.
okay. Stephen, thank you.
You
A
bet.
lot of legwork there, a lot of entire brick school staff. I know there was a lot of people involved, so. Appreciate that. Next up. Public input 2 of 2. Do we have any requests from our?
I got a couple of.
You do?
I know.
Did I miss you?
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You did.
It's okay. I'll be quick. I just want to update you guys on a few things. Is, as you're aware, sure, a lot of legislation at the federal, state level swirling around that, you know, may or may not impact, public education. Our approach is, we are going to cross the bridge when they happen. Right? We know schools will open, you know, we will be here in the fall, and we're going to, you know, just kind of adapt. Please know, we regularly get updates from the School Board Association and the Superintendent Association. And, you know, I kind of joke with my colleagues, you know, I get direct emails from the White House on certain executive orders and emails. So, there's a lot of things thrown around, and it just changes, right? Like, for example, there's something going around on Title VI funding, the due date on that has changed from the 10th to the 17th to now the 24th, right? So like,
Yeah.
you know, there's just things that are constantly in flux. We are just gonna be even and in control what we can control, and I'll update accordingly. There's a lot of people on this who are providing some insights. Another thing around that, you hear something about the 306s in New Hampshire, you know, the minimum school standards and conversation around that. Same thing, we're just gonna go and see where they land, and we know that they're happening. If I had to, you know, forecast out, you know, I hear things that have a little bit of legs, like a parenting plan, the cell phone and technology thing. EFAs, you hear a little bit of conversations like, and at the end, maybe 3 or 4 things get through out of the hundreds that were discussed and proposed. So just kind of stay with us on that. A lot of activity between the vote, organizing in March, onboarding new school board members, appointing committees. That process, you know, we've gotten through. I enjoyed that process. As the superintendent, I've learned the window to kind of reset roles and responsibilities and habits and practices is very small. Because you do it, and then all of a sudden, like, it happens, and if you're not organized kind of by April, you're living with some things for another year. So we did kind of address some things, and I appreciate the flexibility on the agenda, you know, changes, Pete, and the board, and we're gonna continue to do that. Policy leaf, we have some changes coming. So it's been a pretty critical time, and I've enjoyed it. As people know, we are onboarding the new assistant superintendent, Bob Jazokis. He is going to be in the SAU for a few days in the spring to part of that transition process. First day is April 24th, and he will begin his day here with myself and Steve and a few others. I'm imagining more than a few others to read and take part of that day. And so we'll be here for that. And Pete might know, but I'm not sure. I've said this out loud. The SAU has been inundated with right to know requests since mid-March. Pretty heavy, you know, right to know requests are a part of the educational world that we live in, and they are time consuming. And so I've expressed to Pete and the other chairs, like, bear with us. We're a little slower on some of our communications back, and we are dealing with that, and that's a reality of the situation. So just wanted to let people know.
Any way we can get an estimated cost of fulfilling all these right to know requests of the year, just some huge, you know, like the big number is.
Yeah, that is something that I toyed around with, but I thought about how to do that. And there's so many people involved, from myself to Amy to Rogers Brian Miller's, you know, Heather Jennings, some principals depending. I pointed them, Steve, and you know, and
I'm sure we could come up with an estimate.
I'm sure we could come up. Chelsea's involved in it, and so what we want to just do is be mindful of that and respect that process. And we can get that. I have it on the, on a
I mean,
list.
I think it would be important to broadcast to both towns of Mont Vernon and Amherst how much we're paying for each person's right to know request. Because it's kind of outside of the budget at the moment, right? It's just kind of magically in there.
Just takes away
I
from
mean,
their job.
yeah, I mean, there are. There are costs associated, typically legal costs, because we need legal advice.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is really just our time. So, and we're salary employees, so there isn't really anything we can necessarily cost out unless you wanted to
Average,
look at the
Average
opportunity cost
time.
of us not having as much time to do our job.
And, or another way of looking at it is you could take your, your daily rate. And,
Yes.
get it down to an hour and say, hey, Amy Facey put 15 hours into these things and that's a estimated cost, but. Here's the thing, like, we talk about this quite a bit at chairs meetings and, and within, many people at this table right here are 60 to 70 hours a week. Right, 60, 70 hours a week. Roger has some weeks that,
Never
are 45, and he might have some weeks that are, 80. Depending on the week, right? Like, so you never know. But that's part of the job, that's the career we signed up for, but at the same time, we wanna make sure that we are fulfilling the needs. In the duties and responsibilities of running an effective SAU and supporting the school districts and schools and that's just part of it, and this just what it does, Andrew, and I really appreciate you asking, it just prolongs the day, you know what I mean, or prolong, like,
so-
that's what it is.
So I write metric and code for a living, so I work with and figure out how to track people's time. And answer some of these questions, and a lot of times you have to back it up. Like, what is your goal? Because going down and tracking down to the minute makes no sense if your goal is just a non-valuable answer,
Yeah.
right? So if we could take it up to kind of a percentage of time, an average rate, and just be able to broadcast out to the two towns and say, because of the massive number of, requests, we estimate that, the cost might be this.
Yeah.
Because the people who are requesting this are also probably the people who want their taxes to be lower. And I think it's very important to present that number to them.
Yeah, let us think about that a little bit more, and I know other SAUs and superintendents have done activities like that and exercises like that, so I appreciate it, it's on the list, so.
I mean, somebody could make a right to know request to ask how much time you've spent on right to know requests, right?
We could. Yeah, we could.
Sorry, I jumped over
Yeah,
it.
no, it's
I
okay.
apologize.
It's okay.
Next up is public input 2 of 2. Any further questions or comments from our, thank you all for coming tonight, appreciate it.
I want to thank all of you, thank all of you for the effort you put into this presentation. It's been wonderful. I really, really appreciate it.
Pretty good snapshot.
Excellent.
Anybody online, Steve?
No hands up, sir.
Thank you. Any need for non-public tonight?
No,
Sir, no. I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
You sound like with that pause, it's like you want to be here longer.
I will second.
Second, all those in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.